Hello. Welcome to Thursday. Not only Thursday. Ay, 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 ay. Not only Thursday, but we're getting ready for Shavuos, as my brother Cantor Yonah Klieger used to say. Shavuos, nobody knows what it is, but everyone knows it's early this year. Not quite sure what that means, but it was something that he used to say every single year. We've reached 49 days of counting the Omer. 49 days from the time we leave Egypt to the time we receive the Torah on Mount Sinai. 50th day, it all happened. So today really is a time to reflect upon all of the different meditations we've been doing over the last several weeks. And we are in Malchut Sheba Malchut, sovereignty within sovereignty, nobility within nobility, dignity within dignity, sovereignty within dignity. You could do all the combinations. But really what it comes down to is that when receiving the Torah, it gives us a way to be sovereign over our lives. And in order to accomplish that, we need the 5 emotional, spiritual places of our existence. Plus we need the bonding, the yesod, and then finally it leads to malchut. So what are those 5 things? Love and compassion, discipline, endurance, humility. Was that only 4?
Love and compassion you did as one.
Right. Love, compassion, discipline, endurance, and humility. All of that goes into the bonding that we have with others, which leads to our sovereignty. So do we approach, love and compassion, and then gvura, which is like power. Then we get into discipline and endurance and humility. It's interesting because it really feels to me like our lives are a constant flow in and out of all of those things. There's times when our love and compassion comes to the forefront. There's times when we need to be strong and to hold fast. There's times when we need to think about the endurance of our lives and that it's a long haul. There's times where we need to think about who we are in relation to others and find that humility. And then we need to take all of those aspects of who we are in our spiritual realm and bring those to another person so that we can bond. That's not an easy task in itself, but it is through that where we can find this sovereignty. I think one of the nicest ways that we can think about this is through the lens of Martin Buber, the great existentialist from the 20th century. Martin Buber believed that God exists in the relationship between people. But it's not the normal relationships we have with people. It's not, the person behind the counter at the Starbucks store, although I do have very close relations with all of the people behind the counter at the Starbucks store. But, usually in our relationships with anybody who's behind a counter, it's a transactional relationship, right? I need something from them, they need something from me, I give them the product, they tell me how much it is, we have our transaction, and I leave. Our roles are very clear. We have that in a lot of relationships. There are some people that only call you when they need something. There are some people that you just kind of use each other for various purposes. And those relationships are completely normal and a complete part of our lives. He calls them I-it relationships, where we treat the other person really as an it, not necessarily looking deep into their soul to find out who they are. But then there are other relationships, the I-thou relationships, where we're not asking of anything from the other person. You know, we're allowing them to be just as they are for now. It might be another way to put that. But that's sovereignty. That's when I'm comfortable enough with who I am that I can give who I am to you. And I don't demand anything in return. And you give yourself to me and you don't demand anything in return. We don't have many of those relationships in our lives. And when we're in the midst of that, and we're giving and we're receiving, and it's mutual, and there's no want in it. The moment we are like, hey, I'm in an I-thou relationship, you're out. So it's interesting, we need to pursue that kind of deepened relationship, yet we can't call attention to it, and we have to kind of forget that we're in it to exist in it. And that's much like our meditation that we're doing. The moment you start thinking, wow, I'm doing a really good job of concentrating on my breath, you're no longer concentrating on your breath, you're concentrating on how happy you are that you were able to do it. Or when you say to yourself, oh, I have to remember to think about that afterwards. I don't know if you say those things, but I say these things to myself. When my mind starts wandering away, I'm like, no, I have to come back to my breath, but I want to remember that. I never do remember it, because it was fleeting outside of me. The only way to achieve that I-thou is to treat that other so wholly and completely that you are unaware of exactly what's happening between you until it's over. And then you can look back and say, wow, that was really deep. We really connected. That was something that really entered into me. So we take all of these emotions, we take all of these spiritual directions we've been talking about, and we try to internalize them in such a way that they just are, as opposed to, okay, now I have to be compassionate. Now I have to think about endurance. If we're trying to do those things, then we're not really entering into them. I'm sorry, excuse me. So for today, I'd love us to think about all of the different spiritual directions we've talked about, that love and the compassion, that discipline and power, the idea of endurance and tenacity, the idea of humility. Where are you in all of that? And how do you bring those to your relationships? And then, if we can grab onto ourselves and our power and our sovereignty and our nobility and dignity, we can take that with us tonight as we enter into Tikkun Leil Shavuot at 7 o'clock. You can join us. Temple Beth Am, Temple Emmanuel, Temple Isaiah. Lots of synagogues in the Los Angeles area and the United States are going to be participating. And it'll be right here in my living room at 8 o'clock too. We're going to be doing a study of dual stories in the Torah. So let's bring ourselves into this Shavuot where we receive the Torah, we receive literally the Ten Commandments, and think about how we can hold on to the power inside of us and have control over who we are, be sovereign over our own lives. And if we do that, it allows us to carry ourselves with a nobility or a dignity that is desired. So let us begin our breathing. We're getting ready for Shabbat, so we'll say at the end, may I feel joyous and may I feel whole. That wholeness we seek is exactly sovereignty. That joy we seek comes from all of those emotions and spiritual directions we've been talking about. So that joy from deep within can lead us to this wholeness and lead us to a better life as we enter into Shavuot tonight and Shabbat tomorrow. Let's get comfortable and in a position of energy. Remember that we're just breathing normally and we're just trying to be in this very moment, trying to allow things to be just as they are. No need to fix, no need to change anything, because you can't change anything right now. You can only observe what is. Let that ring center you into the middle of your body, so we can feel the breath come in and the breath go out, the up and the down, the filling and the emptying. And we just concentrate on our breath, our life force, our connection to nature. For sure your mind is going to take you away. Just allow those thoughts to just stay above you and float by you like clouds in the sky. And bring yourself back to the ground and your breath. As your mind takes you away from your breath, just notice what you're thinking about. That must be foremost on your mind. It's the truth of where you are right now. And in love and kindness, just bring yourself back. There's no need to judge it. Just bring yourself back to your breath. As we have sunk into our breath, I invite you to prepare yourself for Shavuot and Shabbat by asking for feelings of joy and wholeness with each breath. May I feel joyous. Kind of makes me want to smile when I say that. May I feel whole. May I feel joyous. May I feel whole. May I feel joyous and whole. If you'd like to invite someone to say that too, you can bring someone in your mind's eye in front of you and you can offer it to them. May you feel joyous. May you feel whole. May you feel joyous and whole. May you feel joyous. May you feel whole. And you can bring it back to yourself, and for several breaths, let's just offer it to ourselves. May I feel joyous. May I feel whole. May I feel joyous. May I feel whole. And with that feeling of joyousness and being whole and feeling whole are inside of us, let us finish with our breath, being completely present and allowing things to be as they are for now. Completed 49 days of the Omer. We don't announce the 50th day because that's Shavuot. May you feel joyous, and may you feel whole, and may you have a beautiful evening.